All right. I think you guys know that I do these quite often, but I like to do it to explain the why behind like what we do, just so like everyone's not just, yeah, because I said so. There's reasons behind this, and you know, outside of just the stuff that we've learned from being a CrossFit gym, but things that I've picked up over the years and things that I've seen happen firsthand. And a common question is like, why not just squat and deadlift and press? Why do we start introducing things that are complex? Why are there difficult things that require a lot of coordination and accuracy and all these other things when, you know, I've heard that you could just back squat and deadlift and bench press my way to fitness? There are components the Olympic lifts, or the things that Olympic lifts offer us that the traditional powerlifting movements don't. And for that reason, we love them in CrossFit. And I think you guys have heard a lot of this before, but I figure it's a good rehash. So CrossFit's definition, for anyone that cares, is constantly varied, high intensity functional movement. Constantly varied, always doing something different. You guys experience that every time you come in here. High intensity, it's challenging. No one comes in here, I think, and goes, "Ah, that was easy." That doesn't or, you know, happens occasionally, but not very often. And then functional, just there are parallels to your real life. So the conversation I was having with Katalia here is like, she doesn't know this, but picking up her, you know, year-and-a-half-old is a clean. When you pick up your child from here to here and then walk them around the house so they don't get in things, you're effectively doing a clean, be it a cute 25-pound clean as opposed to a 100-pound barbell, but you clean. Same thing happens when you go to Home Depot in the spring and you get mulch, or you're doing a house project, you get concrete, or you get the dog food delivery from Chewy and you're gonna pick up the dog food and put it on the shelf. Those are all cleans. And the reason why we like Olympic lifts, unique to them that's not there with other movements, is the type of power they generate. The amount of weight they move a long distance very fast. They are unique in their ability to develop power. The most powerful lift in the world is the clean jerk. You lift the most weight the fastest. Now, we know that's important because we know that power is synonymous to intensity, and intensity is what drives results. So if you're looking for a highly efficient way to deliver results to someone, it takes a little bit of patience, but teach them the Olympic lifts because they'll get more work done in less time. Heavy weight, long distance, in a short amount of time, maximum power generation, which is what the Olympic lifts have for us. Additionally, they teach you how to use the big muscles of your hips that are very, very, very powerful, but don't move all that fast. And we learn how to transfer that energy from our hips into our appendages, into our extremities. So for example, if we're throwing a softball pitch or a baseball pitch as hard as we can, people like to think that it's their arms that do the work. It's the legs that push off the mound, that throw the ball as hard as possible. You are generating that force here and then speeding up through your arms, which allows you to throw the ball really hard. And unlike any other movement, they deliver the results the fastest and the most effective relative to their bodybuilding counterpart. For example, how long could you go over next door, grab the curl machine and go like this with 20 pounds? How long would this take before you were fit? How many times did you do this before you were fit? A long fucking time is the answer. Whereas you come here and you do the clean, you know, you do a class today where you did, I don't know, let's just say including the warm-up reps, 75 reps. Do 75 reps like today's class, and then go next door and do 75 reps of anything they have over there and tell me if you feel the same way at the end of your workout. The answer is you won't feel the same. They also develop something in our body called a type 2 muscle fiber, which is the really explosive, high output, high power muscle fiber. It's the same one that allows you to sprint 100 meters or do our max hang clean like we did today. People like to think that we're really good at just, whatever the activity is, we just pick the muscle fiber type that makes the most sense. Your body doesn't work that way. When you have something to do, your brain sends a signal to your muscles based on the perceived effort required to do said thing. To pick up my water bottle, my brain doesn't do all that much. It's like it weighs nothing, pick it up, just stand up. It's probably all slow twitch muscle fiber. My body says, pick up that treadmill and put it over your head. It's ready for a much different task. It's going to recruit more. Now, the more you put your body against this type of stimulus, lifting something super fucking heavy that you don't normally do in your day-to-day life, the better you get at coordinating between your brain and your muscles. That allows you to turn on and access these fibers more willingly. So that you could walk in cold. You know, you've probably seen silly videos on the internet of someone walking up to a barbell ice cold and like clean and jerking like 300 pounds. How well trained do you think that person is? Highly trained, right? Otherwise, what the fuck are you doing? You're gonna kill yourself, right? But they have learned how to increase their ability to recruit their neuromuscular system and activate their muscle type 2 fibers, so that thing's a very realistic thing for them to be able to do. I'd like to be able to do it, I can't, right? But that'd be cool. All of you would like to have more strength in an instant when you call upon it. How do you develop that? Through intentional practice. I kind of already covered the neuromuscular connection, but basically, the more you expose yourself to what we did today, the easier it's gonna be for you to coordinate with your body what you wanna do, right? When it's time to lift something really heavy, the more often you lift something heavy, the better you are gonna be at lifting something heavy. And that's not just muscles. A lot of that's the connection between your head and your muscles. Everyone remember the 10 general physical skills? The CrossFit list of 10 different skills. You guys know that? I'm not gonna read them all off to you, but basically, you can think of any human being as possessing a certain level of 10 different attributes. I like to always use the video game character. Like if you were developing the perfect video game character, you'd slide everything to the right and you're at 100 out of 100 for everything, right? You're the NFL lineman that can run a 3.840 and you bench press 900 pounds, right? It'd be really cool. But unfortunately, fitness doesn't work that way. Everything's a compromise, right? If you pour effort into one activity at the expense of others, which is one of the biggest faults in training, you get really good at that one thing and you suck at everything else, all right? Perfect example. If you ever see runners in the Olympics and you look around the field, there are body types that correspond to their activity. You look at the marathoners, you're like, damn, that guy needs a sandwich. You look at the shot putter, you're like, man, that guy should try some Slim Fast. And then you look at the 800 runner, you're like, fuck, that's exactly what I want to look like, right? And that's because they have a balance of capacities, right? If you get really good at one thing, something else falls off the table. Well, we want to have a balance across those 10 different domains. There isn't a better medium for developing all of those than the Olympic lifts. Now, Greg said way back in the day, the clean and jerk is the king of it, especially high rep, touch and go clean and jerks is the king of developing all 10, but nothing else develops them in the same way. You can never get really good balance by going next door and doing this forever. This will never happen. Nor will you get agility, accuracy, coordination, none of that. That won't happen. But it does happen with the Olympic lifts. The thing that I think most people care about, if they haven't cared about anything I've said so far, is this next one. Something called a neuroendocrine response. At some point in our life, we're at the peak hormone level. Think like raging adolescent, 17, 18 years old. You don't listen to mom or dad. You do what the fuck you want, and everything's driven by impulse. Hormones at a very high level, right? You're developing, you're growing, you're trying to turn into an adult, at a super high level. As you age, they begin to decline. Your diet and your activity level dictate the decline, the decay. The more you lift weights, the slower the decline. The slower the decline, the more hormones you have, the better you feel. Now, granted, you're still going to be sore. I'm not saying this is a fountain of youth and you don't get sore, but it keeps you functioning at a higher level for longer. Helps increase your muscle mass. Helps improve your bone density. And it gets you better at burning fat. The more muscle tissue you have, the more metabolically active you have, the more you can consume. Now, I'm not saying getting jacked get as big as possible so you can just eat like a child in a grocery store, right? But the idea here is the more muscle mass you have, the more insulin sensitivity, the more wiggle room you have to have that occasional bad meal. The more metabolically deranged, the less muscle mass you have, the more that single McDonald's milkshake fucks you up for a couple weeks. It's just a matter of fact. Muscle is basically a buffer against that. Talk about insulin sensitivity, more muscle mass you have, the more sugar you can take out of your bloodstream, and I don't mean like mainlining pixie sticks. I mean like if you eat something that's sweet, your body knows how to put that energy into your tissues to be used for later, not into these love handles. And then what's really cool that probably was not thought of until CrossFit came around, the traditional method for improving something called VO2 max, which is your body's ability to take in oxygen and use it, had always said it has to be aerobic training. It's the only way we're going to develop a VO2 max of any sort of benefit. Well, turns out, if you want to improve something, you've got to disrupt homeostasis. So going for a nice, long, slow run works really good if you're out of shape. But as soon as you start to get in shape, it doesn't do jack shit for you anymore other than make you more efficient at running, but it has very little to do with your oxygen consumption. How do you feel at the end of Fran, Grace, or any of those terrible short CrossFit benchmarks? You're flopping around like a fish on the deck, right? You're gasping for air. You look terrible. Someone comes over like, are you dying? And you're like, maybe. Fuck, I might be. That is your body in a situation where it has more need for oxygen than it currently possesses. When that adaptation occurs, when you get stressed to the point where your body's like, holy fuck, I need more oxygen, you don't have it for me, your body performs a process called angiogenesis, which helps increase the blood flow to your body parts, increases new capillaries and blood vessels so that oxygen can get to those tissues more readily. So Olympic weightlifting actually improves your ability to take in oxygen, which is very counterintuitive to anyone who's in exercise science. And then the last one, I put a line here, but I erased it, but I forgot why I erased it until I remembered. Here's the real reason. It's fun. Do you guys have fun lifting heavy weights? It's fun, right? It's fun to lift heavy weights. So again, I want to give you the kind of the why behind it. I'm absolutely positive there's more reasons than just that. I'm sure I forgot some, but here is why we do what we do. Do you guys have any questions? It can be about Olympic lifts or anything. No? Well, cool. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Hope you found that informative and learned something. Thanks for hanging out.